All right, everyone. Day one of the government shutdown. I don't really care that the government is shut down. We are finding out who the essential personnel are. However, the thing that does upset me is that these politicians who cannot come to a decision, who are falling by partisan lines, are still continuing to be paid while a lot of people aren't getting paid. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to read to you um, Sarah Sanders, the press secretary, her official release is on the situation. It says, put out January 19th, Senate Democrats own the Schumer shutdown. Tonight they put politics over our national security, military families, vulnerable children, and our country's ability to serve all Americans. We will not negotiate the status of unlawful immigrants while Democrats hold our lawful citizens hostage over their reckless demands. This is the behavior of obstructionist losers, not legislators. When Democrats start paying our armed forces and first responders, we will reopen negotiations on immigration reform. During this politically manufactured Schumer shutdown, the president and his administration will fight for and protect the American people. So that is the official statement. And um, this was something that I actually saw the Republicans, President Trump, specifically trying to avoid. And when he sat down with that table full of committee members talking about DACA and the illegal immigration issue, and you could tell by the way that Schumer and the one from Maryland, I forget his name, the one who looks like he's about 90 years old, I want to say his name's Hauser or Hoyer or Hoy, something like that. You could tell the way that they were talking that they were not looking for a deal. Even President Trump was looking for a deal and said he was willing to take the heat as long as they were coming up with something viable. But I am with Donald Trump. We need border security. There needs to be a wall, even if it's not totally across in areas where it's not feasible to have a wall. There needs to be a wall. I would actually go further and say that we need to have ICE in our airports and at our ports of entry, and not just the southern border, but also the northern border. I know that would cost a lot of money, but as the Democrats like to point out, the wall isn't going to stop people, since most people are coming in through the ports of entry, such as airports and other ports of entry. So we'll have ICE there too. So that way that'll solve that issue too. Thank you for bringing that up. I'd also like to see have the ability to, if someone is staying here on an overstay of their visa, within 7 days there's someone knocking on their door and finding out just what the hell's going on, why are they here, and if they need to leave, or if they need to apply for an extension, as long as they are not convicted of any criminal activity, then I would have those agents help them apply for an extension on their visa. But if they have created problems, if there are issues of them possibly self, self, when they're going to go out and create attacks, these lone wolves, how they get self indoctrinated. If there's any of that going on, if there is, they need to be deported and their family with them. I don't like chain migration either, because as we saw the last few terror attacks, those were people who are brought in through lottery. You won the lottery, you get to go to America. All right, now you can come thank us by attacking our people. Or through chain migration. Oh, your father is here, now you can bring your uncle and your cousin and your sister and your brother and your grandpa and your best friend who's related by the third cousin over there. No, that needs to end too. But what the Democrats did was the Democrats decided to block the budget because they were not getting approval for DACA, the Deferred Action for Children, whatever. And DACA is not a race. Dreamers are not a race. They come from all over the place, but first and foremost, by the letter of the law, they are not supposed to be here. And when you're, I'm sorry, but when you're 18 or 30 and you're coming over here, you do not get DACA. Okay, it's ridiculous that 30-year-olds are coming over here and trying to apply for, be eligible under DACA. But I would like to point out the Republicans who voted to shut down the government. This is very telling. Number one at the top of the list, Jeff Flake. Jeff Flake's name says it all. He's a flake, and it's a good thing he's retiring. Jeff Flake is also the one during the last threatening a government shutdown a couple of years ago. He and John McShane are the ones who gave away Oak Flat, Indian Territory, Apache land to foreign mining companies. So keep that in mind. So we're glad he's gone. Slimy Lindsey Graham voted for the shutdown. Lindsey Graham, the closet gay man. I'd use the other word, but I don't want to offend my gay friends. Mike Lee, never heard of him. So Mike Lee, I don't know where you're from, but I'm glad you're not from my state because I wouldn't vote for you, even if you're running for dog catcher. But the really telling one is Rand Paul, because I really like Rand Paul, and I'm very disappointed that he voted to shut this down, especially because this is not funding the children in need, their health care, and military families. The Democrats who voted to fund the government, so the good Democrats, who I would probably consider voting for if they were in my state, but they're not. Joe Donnelly, Democrat, voted to keep the government funded. Heidi Heitkamp. Doug Jones, again, I'm not sure who these people are. Doug Jones, he might be a Californian, but I'm not sure. I know I've heard the name before, but I can't remember what state he's from. Joe Manchin, West Virginia. He is actually a Democrat that I would vote for. Several years ago when he was running for his position in the Senate, he's one of the Democrats who actually was firing a gun in his political ads. So Joe Manchin is a Democrat in name only. He's actually more of a Republican, which is why I would vote for him. Claire McCaskill, I'm a little surprised, but Claire McCaskill, I think she's up for re-election in 2018. So, she's up for re-election this year, and it could be that all of these people that voted to fund the government are up for re-election this year in 2018, and they don't want to lose their seats. Because the majority of the country, unlike what you think in California or in New York, the rest of the world doesn't think like you do. Or I'm sorry, the rest of the country doesn't think like you do. And you know that the rest of the country doesn't think like you do, which is why you have derogatory terms for the middle of the country, such as calling it flyover country. You don't go into those states unless you have to do a performance, and then you're in and you're out. You don't spend any time there. You don't know anybody that's from there. You don't spend any amount of time with the people that are there. You're there to make money off of them and to get the hell out of their states because you have no respect for their states. But unlike you in California or in New York, the majority of the country does not want to keep DACA. I am no on DACA, period, end of story. And my evolution, if you watch my Kate Steinle video, you will know why I am totally against DACA. I've since I've amended it just a little bit back to the way that I believed DACA should be. If you were a child and you were brought here and you are under 18, if you want to stay here and you want to have scholarships and you want to have access to education, when you are 18 years old, when you are applying for college scholarships, you also apply for American citizenship. And if you don't apply for American citizenship, in my world, you're not eligible for any scholarships, any free college, no in-state tuition. You're not allowed to usurp anything off of the American taxpayers' hard work unless you apply for citizenship. And citizenship for you should be streamlined and it should be affordable because you have been here. And if you have been here and you're getting good grades and you don't have a juvenile hall record, you've never been in trouble with the law for anything, then you should be a citizen. And your parents should also be allowed to apply for citizenship at that point. I don't want illegal immigrants in this country. I want legal immigrants in this country. I want you to become legal. But in order to become legal, you have to have zero criminal record, no arrests for any criminal activity. Okay, and I'm not talking about a speeding ticket. And you should have to pay back taxes. If your parent has been working off the books and not paying taxes and you've been collecting welfare, cash aid, food stamps, EBT, anything like that, then your path to citizenship should be affordable. But in your following years, on your tax returns, you should be paying those assistance back because you were not here legally. If you were here legally, then I wouldn't say that, but I'm talking about a way for you to come here legally. But I think if you're 18 and you don't apply for citizenship, then you need to leave because obviously you don't want to be a citizen of this country. The same thing too, if you're an illegal child, who was brought here illegally and you want to go into the military, they should also help you get citizenship before you're out there fighting for us. I don't know why there would be anyone who's of an illegal status is even serving in our military. That makes absolutely no sense. And I know that I am in a military family, and there are a lot of Hispanics that serve with distinction and honor, and a lot of Native Americans as well. But we're talking about illegal immigrants. There are illegal immigrants that serve in our military from all different countries. But there really is a very large Hispanic presence in the military. But I think if you're in the military before you're allowed to go to boot camp, I think that there should be an expedited process and, again, an affordable process for you to become a citizen before you go into boot camp. Again, I don't know if that's feasible because we have these politicians who decide to go to war and have our young men and women killed over oil and profiteering off of weapons and things like that you and I, as the average voter, did not vote for. But DACA is something that needs to be passed through the legislative body, but it also needs to come with the border wall, extra security, drones, manpower at not just the southern border, but at our ports of entry, and that includes the airports. That includes going out and checking people's visas if they're here and they're overstaying. And I'm not talking about Mexico, El Salvador. I'm not talking about a specific country, but we know where a lot of them are coming into. And so we need to secure all of those areas where people are coming in. I'm not talking about a specific race of people. I'm talking about a status, and I'm talking about a way for people that as the argument goes, when you're a child, you don't have a say in where you live. But once you are 18 years old, you are an adult. You do have a say as to where you live, and you do have a say as to whether or not you decide that you're going to keep the illegal status or if you're going to become a legal citizen. And the bureaucracy in the citizenship and the path to citizenship for people that want to become legal citizens should be streamlined, and it should be affordable. Okay, I don't think that people should not become citizens because they have to have $100,000 in the bank. It should be something that you pay as you go. You need these forms. It should be affordable. If you need assistance, it should be made available. And then perhaps when you file your taxes, that is something that is taken into consideration as to whether or not you get a tax refund. Perhaps you might have to forfeit a tax refund for a few years in order to pay for that. But again, it's a way for you to become legal. And I can tell you that the government shutdown has affected military families. The commissary is shut down, so I know that my family can't go to the grocery store that they like to go to, which is the commissary. They actually have to go off base to do their grocery shopping. So there is some inconvenience. I believe the road that I travel to work to get to and from work will be shut down. So when I go to work, I'm going to have to take another route to work. It's going to take me probably 5 or 10 minutes longer to get to work. So there is going to be some inconvenience, but I'm not willing to forego convenience for the concerns of people that are here illegally. Okay, DACA and illegal immigration needs to be comprehensive. There needs to be a way for children to become citizens when they are 18. And I don't buy the argument that, we're not applying for citizenship because we're scared. We're living in the shadows. You are absolutely not living in the shadows. I grew up in California. None of you are in the shadows. We know who you are. If you're living in the shadows and you're afraid, one, you're not going to go to the White House and protest or in front of Trump Tower saying that you're a dreamer or that you're an illegal alien. Okay, you're not going to do that if you're scared. If you're scared for your family, you're not going to go and stand and protest in the streets where you're going to be arrested. If you're afraid, you don't do that. So you don't go standing in front of cameras and talking about how you're going to have a blood war with American citizens and that there will be casualties, as this one illegal immigrant did in Arizona a couple years ago. You don't do that if you're afraid. If you're afraid, you live in the shadows. You don't tell people who you are. You don't talk to them. You don't go out and make a big public fuss about it. So I don't buy that argument at one iota that you're afraid. Okay? But our government should not be shut down, and our citizens should not be held hostage out of concerns for people that are not even supposed to be here by the definition of the law. And so this shutdown is necessary to point out the problems and the fact that the Democrats have shut this government down. And the Democrats absolutely want illegal aliens from other countries to come here to become dependent upon our social welfare systems and to become future Democrat voters, because they know that you have no mind of your own. Once you live off the government, you are living on the plantation. You're a slave. You don't have a master up in a big house. Well, you do. You have a master. He's sitting in the Capitol building, and he's got a D after his name or her name. So when you are brought in and you're living off the government and you're depending on these government handouts, and the Democrat Party is the one who wants to keep giving those things to you so that you will vote for them, they have absolutely enslaved you. So anyway, that's my time. The government shutdown is Chuck Schumer's fault. It's also Rand Paul. You own this as well, which I'm really surprised because, like I said, I actually like you. So I don't know why you voted to shut down the government. The same thing with well, Jeff Flake and Lindsey Graham. They're the slimiest of the slimiest. I mean, even a slimy, slithering lizard snake who's gone through those marshy swamps of Florida and South Carolina wouldn't want to touch Lindsey Graham or Jeff Flake. So I absolutely, am not surprised by those two. And of course, Mike Lee, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. I'd never vote for you, and I hope your constituents do not vote for you. These are probably, Mike Lee probably isn't up for reelection. I don't think Rand Paul is either this year, because if they were, they probably would have voted the other way. Anyway, that's the government shutdown. Enjoy it. If we can get by without, certain services, but it's disgusting that the politicians are still receiving their paychecks, but our military, our first responders, children who need the health care assistance are not getting the services or the pay that they need to keep going. And that's really a shame, Chuck Schumer. But this is on you and Rand Paul and Mike Lee and Jeff Flake and Lindsey Graham. And I'm out in 3, 2, 1.